drinking like 4 Loco.
So on that note, Josh, how was your week, Mr. Josh?
My week was alright. Slowly did more stuff with the room.
Moving, always fun.
Yeah. Let's see. Season 4 of She-Ra, binged that. It's good. Played Yu-Gi-Oh! Last night. Got wrecked. What else? Just read about how small FGC news. Apparently Echo Fox, the team, apparently no longer exists.
Oh, they disbanded?
Yeah. It's real weird. Like, according to one of their investors, they said, quote, "There is no Echo Fox. It's gone. All the players were let go. The staff was terminated. The logo and uniform, they're now a collector's item."
Okay. Just like overnight, basically.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
They were a pretty major team, too. That's what's crazy.
Yeah, I don't think they've made anything, official, but they also said that their website leads to a mostly broken page with many previously included aspects removed entirely, including its teams and roster entries. And the team's Twitter account has not posted since September 2nd, 2019.
So basically, rest in peace.
Sounds like it. Which is interesting, because that's the team that Sonic Fox was in for a really long time.
Yeah, and then now is he independent, or is he signed to someone else?
He's now technically a free agent. There was a tournament this weekend. He was still wearing the Echo Fox jersey.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Man, Sonic Fox, what a legend. One of the coolest, upcomers of the past few years. Awesome dude. Anything else?
I think that is it.
All right.
I don't think of anything else.
Ms. Mallory?
I worked a lot. I listened to a lot of music this weekend. I did download and tried out Eternal, which is a card game. It's a lot like Hearthstone.
Except not owned by a toxic company?
Except
cool.
It's not Blizzard related. So if you're against Blizzard, you can definitely still play some type of game like Hearthstone, and it's pretty much the exact same thing.
So
it's pretty on par. Even the graphics are beautiful. The turns are the same. It's really fun and easy.
It's basically the same?
Yeah, it's basically the same.
Okay, fair enough.
I kind of didn't expect that when I downloaded it.
Mm-hmm.
I also didn't read about it. It was just a free game, and I was like, ooh, free.
Well, that's where they get their hooks in you.
And then I played it for about an hour. It was really good. So I did that. Played a not Telltale game. What is it?
Was that game that you said was like a Telltale game?
Yeah, I can't remember it. I think it's like Sleep in a Coma or something like that. It's on Switch for like $1. It was really fun. I only made it to like the third part of the bridge because I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. And plus I killed all the birds on accident. So
you killed birds confirmed. What else?
And then I listened to a bunch of music this weekend. A lot of bands I've never heard of before, so I just like started scrolling through different pages on Instagram and started listening to music.
You found music that you
like. I put in nerdcore this weekend, like a hashtag nerdcore.
What an interesting thing you searched for. It's almost like you were listening to someone who would make you say, "Oh my," when we have Mr. MC Ohm-I on the line. And after that, Tara was like, well, how are you doing, Ohm-I?
I'm alright. I've been okay.
I know, he's just cringing into infinity on his end. He's just like, why? Well, because last time we didn't do an intro per se, like I just stumbled into it awkwardly, so this time I was just like, let's do one that's too premeditated, and then go from there. Although your end wasn't premeditated.
No, I just like to listen to music. And
it just worked out perfectly for me to jack your week and then eliminate mine just to do that segue. So there's that. All I do is play Hat in Time the end. But before we do go on, anything else real quick that you do want to mention that you did?
Oh, yeah, I started streaming this weekend. I played I played around with Mixer today.
There you go.
And that's about it.
So soon you'll be pulling those ninja numbers, and then everything will be perfectly fine for the podcast.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so... what you been up to, Ohm-I? What's going on? I know you recently moved. We were talking about that. How's that been going?
It's been alright. I just moved from one side of the lake in Seattle to the other side of the lake in Bellevue.
There you go.
It's not really exciting. It's only like 20-minute drive.
But the move is still a pain like always, because moving stuff is always a pain.
Oh, yeah. I still haven't unpacked. So
yeah, exactly.
Boxes sitting in my dining room.
There you go. It's one of those things where when you move, you realize how much crap you have, and you always go through that struggle of, all right, what's really important to me? Because at this point, especially when you're like a long time into the move, you're just like, I'm ready to about ditch everything left in this house.
This box is done.
Yeah, except here, like, you have to take as much stuff as you can or give it to someone, because there's weird haul fees for most apartment complexes.
Oh, wow.
It'd be like $40 for a desk. And it's like, okay.
Oh, God.
That's weird.
Yeah, so, it's almost incentivized to take it with you.
Or just have less stuff.
Yeah, there you go. I could definitely learn from that. That would be a good lesson to learn if it wasn't, I don't know how, everything just piles up. I kept this so clean for a while, now everything's getting out of control. But there's that. You have any releases or dates coming up for shows?
Yeah, so I was supposed to release like an EP a couple months ago, but like this year has been really hectic and lots of stuff has happened for me, so it was delayed. Bill Beats is producing it, mastering it for me. So,
Nice.
But he's about to go on tour with Shubzilla. So I'm going to release that album like late December, early January. Maybe, probably early January.
Well, perfect that you mentioned that actually, because we had Shubs and Bill on the podcast a couple episodes ago, the other episode actually. So appropriate they're here. They're brought up again. We're gonna go see them in Austin, so we're pretty excited about that. So, but that's cool, man. When was the last time you were in San Antonio?
I moved last year, so...
so since then, pretty much?
I moved.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, no. Actually, I was there last month. I went for a conference in downtown, and I was there for a couple of days. But...
Downtown San Antonio, the best place to drive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's not too bad. It's, I guess, if you go when there's no one else driving.
Exactly. Bingo. Yeah, no, it's like pretty much only at night do I really feel comfortable not just going into an opposing lane and destroying everybody.
Right.
Because all those one ways
tricky.
Yeah, it's not great sometimes. But yeah, you miss it? You miss it sometimes? I'm sure Seattle's beautiful, but do you miss it sometimes, San Antonio yet? Have you been a lot of family over here?
I'm not from San Antonio,
okay.
So
no family.
Yeah. So I mean, it's all right.
Fair enough. Alrighty, so let's get into a few of the other questions that we had there. Right, so we're talking about the album, and then I know you've been busy with the move and everything. Are you in the works, if you're able to talk about it, of any upcoming tours with NPC or anything?
So I don't have any tours, mostly because out of everyone in the NPC, with the exception of maybe Creative Mindframe, I'm probably like the most busy with actual work, and for a while it was also school.
Right.
But recently things have calmed down, and I have a lot more time on my hands.
Okay.
So
cool.
I'm hoping that like early next year, I'm able to start doing a lot more shows outside of wherever it is I'm living, which is here above you for the moment.
Right. But have you been at least doing a lot of domestic shows?
I've done a couple, usually with Shubs or a little, I don't say little, but like smaller venue shows, like openings and stuff like that.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, they're really chill, man. We had a blast of them on here. That was probably the first time we had any candid time or conversation with them. So it was really chill talking to them. It's cool that y'all are all in that area now. So that's really awesome.
Which means we have to take a trip to Seattle, guys.
Well, Seattle would be a fun trip. Where are you from originally? Are you from Seattle originally? Then you were in San Antonio and moved back, or?
No, I'm from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn normally? All right, cool. So going from there to Seattle, what are some of the biggest differences or any culture shocks or anything like that in terms of like something you're definitely not used to for being from Brooklyn? I would imagine a very different place.
So we're talking like Brooklyn, because I haven't lived there in like over 10 years. So we're talking like Brooklyn from like early mid-2000s to like Seattle, which it's every city has its own vibe. Every city is very different.
For sure.
I miss a lot of the stuff from New York, like the train system and all the randomness that happens on the train that people post about online and everyone outside of New York has an opinion on.
For sure.
But like Seattle is very outdoorsy, just like not me. But
same feels.
yeah, it's like I could look on like Tinder or something. Like everybody's just outdoors pictures. But yeah, it's a different vibe. Everything like yoga and keto and kombucha and all that stuff.
I feel you. Okay, yeah, no, that's definitely very different than what I'm definitely used to in the city slicker land. It definitely seems pretty different from that. So
yeah, it's been an adventure, but I don't go out much, so it's kind of whatever for me.
All right, cool. Definitely can relate there. Let's see. Favorite, if you would say, influences on how you got into the nerdcore scene. How did that all come about for you? Was that always like, have you been a fan for a while and you always strive to it, or did you almost kind of stumble into it? Were you like hip hop and then kind of stumbled into it? How did that come about?
Oh, when I was like in junior high school, we used to have like freestyle sessions at lunch or like after school. This was like early 2000s, and I didn't really know what nerdcore was at the time, but I think my sophomore or junior year of high school, I think I accidentally went to my first nerdcore show.
Oh, nice.
It was Frontalot. He was doing a convention in New York City at the Jacob Javits Center, and a lot of my friends and I heard his music by accident because we were like on like LimeWire. Or like,
oh yeah! Oh boy, the classic ties LimeWire, destroying your computer for music.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically. And so like we came across Lars, we came across Frontalot, and we were like, oh, there's some interesting songs that they have.
Yeah,
and
for
so
sure.
like saw them at a show, but like I wasn't really involved in nerdcore at the time. I was in high school. I didn't really know what was going on. And then a couple years later, when I decided, hey, I'm gonna start like actually rapping about like work things because I need something to do. But that's when I ran into the nerdcore community online, like nerdcorenow.com when it was a forum, or like late Rhyme Torrents era. And from there it was kind of like, wow, I saw Frontalot in high school as a show, and now I'm like rapping on stage next to him. It's a wild nerdcore adventure.
Yeah, for sure, man. That's really cool, and it's amazing how much some people from the scene have just blown up over time, especially in the last few years. You're talking about the rise of Richie Branson and Megaran especially. Like, it's been exponential. It just seems surreal, the growth at this moment that those guys have been going through. So it's just really cool for the scene to be getting that kind of exposure finally, because I think of a lot of hip-hop scenes, rap and hip-hop in general is one of the most stereotyped and generalized genres of music out there. I would say that, that and heavy metal are probably two of the ones that like people just really don't, the masses just really don't realize how different facets there are of each of those genres. And I think that nerdcore is such a refreshing, mostly positive. I mean, there's obviously some that really get real and it's dogs on the more negative things, but as any genre should, when you got to get real about something, you got to get real about something. But it's refreshing, to hear stuff about the nostalgia that we all share around our, late 20s, early 30s ages or so, for those who are listening that are a bit of the... But knowing most of our demographic, it's going to be younger than us, so they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. But anyways. But with that being the case, though, it was cool. I want to say MC Chris was probably one of the first nerdcore acts I proper listened to back in the day, and it was one of those things where when I first heard somebody who made... Because I'm not going to lie, when I was younger, I always wanted to be the cool guy, so like I did kind of keep the more obscure music or the video games I played under wraps, unless we were talking about a more mainstream game like Final Fantasy. Was like one of the zaniest ways I'd go of admitting that I played and not talk about maybe King of Fighters or something like that, because people would just be like, what's that? And then, the growing pains of being yourself, basically, not wanting to, kind of, when you get to a certain age. But it was very cool when I first heard stuff like MC Chris was my gateway to it, and I would hear people, I'm just like, you know what? That sounds badass, and they're still talking about that nerdy-ass shit that I like. And I really... That's to me what the main appeal was to it. So yeah, no, it's really cool, man. So yeah, so you kind of stumbled into it pretty much by accident, really.
Yeah. but also I think like music is like super universal. You can hear any genre of music, and you can have any content in it. It's just
Absolutely.
that music has like different genres have become associated with different like stereotypes. Like you hear like country music, and there's your dog and your car and your truck and whatever, and your tractor, right? But like you can have nerdcore country, and it'll be perfectly fine, and it's going to appeal to I don't know anybody who has like a Minecraft server on some random farm somewhere, like an actual Minecraft farm.
Rough,
but
like,
like, but it's gonna be like you can listen to any genre of music, and as long as it relates to you, you're probably going to enjoy it. You can have nerdcore opera, and somebody will go, well, that sounds really weird. But then if you have a community of people who grew up in the I don't know, the opera, so it's I don't know,
for sure.
like when they hear nerdcore, they play games, they're going to jump to it. So it's less about like what the genre is and more just how much can you relate to any particular song. For sure.
And I think that is exactly what you're right. This is what the appeal is. You know, if I had heard say Bitforce before MC Chris, then that would have like definitely tickled to my primarily heavy metal roots. So absolutely, you know, you're absolutely right. It's definitely not nerdcore. Certainly isn't. Nerdcore rap is a thing, but you're definitely right that the nerdcore scene itself isn't strictly limited to just hip hop, let's say, or otherwise. So you know, groups like Power Glove or Bitforce, I would say, is fair to say that they're nerdcore as well. So yeah,
definitely. Kirby Crackle, or I think that's the name. All these other like bands, Bit Brigade, Cassandra Verdrick, like everybody.
For sure, man.
Stuff.
So yeah, it's cool stuff. What on the nerdy side of things in terms of video games or anime? What are a few soundtracks that really stuck to you growing up that you absolutely like still love to this day, and something that like when you hear that piece, you get super hyped about?
Definitely Final Fantasy IX. It's like one of my favorite
culture
soundtracks of all time.
Heck yeah!
Because Final Fantasy IX is the best Final Fantasy.
There you go.
It was definitely that one, and like a lot of the old Nintendo music, like you know, but not like Mario. Maybe like Donkey Kong. I'm a big fan of a lot of the Donkey Kong music.
Nice.
I ended up doing 2 Donkey Kong guest verses for people this year, and it was the same sample. It was just super awkward because I sent one person their verse, and then 45 minutes later, someone else messaged me. They were like, "Hey, I got this song I want you to be on," and it was the exact same sample. Just
so you just got it, and you were like, huh.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, all right, but yeah, a lot of the Tales of music. Like from different series. Tales of Legend, I think, was like one of my favorites because it had the Elvis-like dude and a lot of like electric violin style music.
Absolutely,
it was all pretty dope.
Heck yeah, man, that's cool stuff. Any particular, if you're big in anime, any particular anime pieces come to mind that you think of like dope soundtracks?
I'm actually really horrible with anime soundtracks. I'm the worst. The only one I can remember by name is Wind from Naruto, but I can't remember any other anime soundtrack by name.
Fair enough.
Like who wrote it. Oh, no, I'm lying.
Oh.
There's definitely one. There was an anime years ago about baking bread. And it was like Food Wars, but before that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was a
literally
long
just
time
all
ago.
bread.
Okay.
And the end theme song of that was like this soul funk group. I forget their name. Better believe it. Better believe in yourself. I don't remember their name, but it was super dope. That was like the one song when I was like a teenager that I remember because I was like binge watching that series.
There you go. Hey, I'm not gonna lie, that was an attempt to segue into JoJo's like we did. we had when we had Shubzilla, when we had Shubs and Bill on here, Shubs and us went on like the longest tangent about fucking JoJo's. Like it became a JoJo's reference. I'm fairly sure anyone who didn't want to hear
an
about
episode of JoJo's.
There you go. See,
so I'm like,
it was
oh my god,
like, party.
JoJo's music is super recognizable. Like any Giorno theme is like instant.
Yes,
immediately just run. You look around like who's chasing you.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
So I want to say that bread anime was Yakitate Japan.
Yeah.
Yeah, like looking it up, I was like, I know of this. I knew this one girl who was like obsessed with this anime at one point. was like, I know who this is.
I think that was like one of the first anime, like at least that I can remember, that had like food reactions, like the same way that Food Wars does. But they also did a lot of like imitations of other anime that were on the same channel.
Oh shit!
So like Detective Conan or Naruto or Bleach or stuff like that.
Oh, that's
like
cool.
They imitated other animes in their reactions. It was just great to watch.
That's interesting. That's really,
a lot of
really
them were
cool.
spot on.
That's awesome. I'll definitely need to check that out. I had, honestly, in the dark on that one, had no clue, so that's pretty cool. That's probably the first time on this podcast that something came up that I didn't know about. So there we go.
It's usually me and Josh looking at you
usually
very
you guys
confused,
are like,
being like,
you guys
no.
are like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, apparently the studio was Sunrise. So
Oh, well,
Gundam.
Sunrise. Gundam. Yeah, I was going to say Sunrise and Gundam. That's unanimous. Or, I mean, synonymous. I don't know what I'm saying. Synonymous with that. You were recently featured, correct me if I'm wrong, if there was another track that you were on after that, but the latest track I heard that you were on was Carpooling.
That would be the NPC track with the Donkey Kong sample. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. So I just wanted to dust it off a bit because I fairly sure knew what you were talking about. And there you go. You were on there with who else? Kadesh Flo was on there, and then of course Shubs and Bill.
Creative Mind?
Was Creative Minds?
Is that? I think that's who else was on that
Yeah.
track.
So that was cool stuff, though. Uh-oh.
Yeah, that was a fun track. And it's like every time. So before I moved up here, we used to come up. I guess we still do, but I came up here for PAX a few times, and that's basically how it was, staying at Shub's place.
Nice.
And then just going to the con. But she mentioned like I live 10 minutes away from the convention center in that song, because I literally did. But I'm always late to cons.
There you go.
Always late. So it is what it is.
Who was your segue, if there's any interesting story in regards to it, that led to your involvement with the with NPC in general? Was there a particular person who kind of introduced you to everybody else? Were you already in the foreground of that in the beginning, or?
So I knew Megaran, not as well as everybody else did, but I knew Megaran and Creative Mindframe, and I was aware. I was on deployment when the NPC started, and so like when I came back, like the faces of Nerdcore had changed because we had we had like the NPC. You hear me?
Yeah, you're good, bro.
Yeah, we had the NPC, then it was like Wreck the System, and it was like all these other little groups popping up, and I was just like, wow, like I was only gone for like 8 months or something like that, and like a lot happened in between 2013 and 2014. When I came back, I was supposed to put out like a project, and I sort of did, but I started going to like more conventions. I made a Orlando Nerd Fest. I drove the 7, 8 hour, 10-hour trip, whatever it was, from Pensacola to Orlando. And I think it just came up later in discussion about me joining, specifically because at the time that we were looking for people, or the group was looking for people that weren't just rappers, but who also had some other skills that would be able to contribute to the group.
Right. Nice.
And I am like the computer guy. So
okay. Hey, there you go. Everyone needs the computer guy. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am.
There you are. And there you are. And then finally, wrapping up the interview segment, any interesting tour stories? Anything? Because Shubs told us about a time she got fucked up at a show. So have you got anything fun or interesting like that you want to mention that happened in the past? Anything interesting?
Tour stories? No, I don't think I do. I usually miss out on everything because for whatever reason, like I'm just not around. Like Orlando Nerd Fest when IQ was hanging out with Nobuo Uematsu in a hot tub. Like I wasn't there.
Shit.
I was like in a different area.
Shit,
and like I hear all these stories happen after the time.
You're the guy who shows up after it all happened and they tell you about it?
Yeah. So that's me. I'm just the late guy. I'm just everywhere.
Hey.
So I don't think I have any interesting stories of my own.
Well, in there,
hopefully
you inadvertently told an interesting story about IQ, who we've actually been trying. I know he's been IQ's always really busy, but we've been trying to hit him up and get him on here too. We're also talking to Sky Blue and stuff like that. So cool guys, man. All y'all have been really dope. Every time we see you guys live, you guys have always been really, really cool. So it's always nice seeing y'all around, man. So good stuff,
Thank
good
you.
stuff. Okay, so we got him there. He's got stuff rolling out eventually. Once he gets that stuff going on, we'll plug it on here as we do. We plugged Chubbs' and Bill's upcoming tour last time. We talked about their GoFundMe, which I believe is right, if it didn't already get successfully funded, was right at the cusp of it the other day.
Yeah,
So thank you all. If anyone on here was the one who helped donate, thank you guys. Touring life is damn expensive, so it's always nice to get some help from the community like that. So it's nice to see them reach their funding goal. So, congrats to them. All right,
I
so
actually forgot about their GoFundMe. Let me go contribute.
there you
I
go.
completely forgot.
It happens. It
Friendly
happens.
reminder.
Friendly reminder. And as MC Ohm-I, make sure to get that account going and plugging it into Shubs and Bill's fund. Let's go through the channel plugs real quick. Where can everyone find you on the internet, Mr. Josh?
YouTube, ShiroPlay5, Twitter and Instagram at Joshiro Joestar.
Miss Mallory?
You can find me at Instagram at awesome _ Mally.
This always happens
It
somehow.
does. And then you can also find me on Mixer. Just started that today. And it's Awesome Mally, but the A is capitalized and
Oh
the
my.
M is capitalized with
Why
an
are you making it so
underscore.
difficult?
Because Awesome Mally was already taken.
Wait, so Mixer is case sensitive?
Yeah,
That's weird. I
apparently.
didn't know. I didn't
So,
even know.
and I tried to have it all the same, but it didn't work out, so now I'm
So we
having
gotta
to figure
find the
out.
other one.
Yeah,
And be
and
like,
I gotta go
hey.
take it from them.
Give me the account.
Because it's getting confusing, guys.
There you go. And you can find me at @ZDRocker on most social medias, all the videos and whatnot at slimasianentertainment.com, as well as all the episodes of the podcast at disconnectedcast.com. And now we're going to take a quick word from our sponsor, Radio Public. Radio Public is a podcast platform that's tired of my unprofessional ad rolls. Anyways, no. Radio Public is an app on Android and iOS where you can listen to all your favorite podcasters, including us, assumed if you're listening to this that we might be one of your favorites, that you can find on there, and you actually do support it directly, assuming there's enough streams through it. So make sure to check that out again on Android and iOS. Radio Public
Super easy to use.
app. Yeah, it is super easy to use, so do it. Add it to your drawer of 100 million apps that everyone already has on the phone.
What's one more app,
What's
guys?
one more app gonna do?
Come on.
Besides clutter everything.
Exactly. Make folders.
So thank you, Radio Public. So there's that. All right, let's get into the news. China. I don't know. I just like the way Trump says it is just ridiculous. So China. Anyways, so a piece came out recently in the New York Times about China. Surprise, surprise, likes to control everything, and the explicit terms of their control over video game usage has come out to the public in terms of the specifics of it. So, during the school week, I almost said work week, but we're talking about children. Hey, maybe, right? Am I right, guys? China? Anyways, so Monday through Friday, during the work and or school week, kids are not allowed to play video games between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. So there is a blackout period there where you are not allowed. It is illegal to play games during that time period. And Monday through Friday, you are only allowed to play a maximum of 90 minutes a day. How that's regulated, shrug.
Yeah.
I didn't really highlight that. But that is the law. These are laws, by the way. This isn't a suggestion. This is the law. On the weekends, you are allowed a generous 3 hours on Saturday or Sunday without the 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. limitation applying on weekends.
So Saturday or Sunday.
Saturday or Sunday.
You don't get
So
it both
you get
days?
a combined. You
No,
have like
No,
three.
you get 3 hours a day on Saturday
okay.
and Sunday. Excuse
I was
me.
like, so
I was just
an hour
like,
and a
damn.
half?
Yeah, I was like, man, you better plan that out and use those.
Do you know how long it would take someone in China to beat The Witcher 3?
A really long time.
You don't. That's how.
Yeah.
But anyway, and then, of course, the part of the law I did like, I didn't like that, but the part of the law I did like was the fact that they do limit microtransaction spending.
Okay.
They do have an age range, in which case you are allotted a monthly budget you're allowed to spend on microtransactions, ranging between $28 to $57. I know, weird. I don't know if that's a conversion thing or just weird 28 and 57. But depending on your age.
Those are oddly specific numbers.
Those are very oddly specific. They should have done cents too, or whatever it is over there. But so they have that. It depends on your age, is how much you can spend monthly.
Games on your phone?
Microtransactions.
No. I mean the whole playing video games.
Yes.
Does that count for phone games too?
Although phone games are for inhuman people, and no one should ever play a phone game. I'm joking. No. Other than the fact that phone games are barely games, it does apply to that as well.
Okay.
So
I guess Pokemon Go.
Those are all the facts. But what I did want to kind of make a conversation piece out of it is how strict, we're going to go around, take turns. How strict were your parents, if they were strict about it, with your video game usage or playtime when you were, we're going to say around elementary, middle school, probably. So we'll say that. Ohm-I, up to bat. Were your parents very limiting when it came to what you could do or terms of playing video games when you were in school?
I grew up in a black household, so household. So we had a bedtime. Anything was, do your homework. You can play games up until your bedtime, then go to bed. Weekends, as I got older, kind of got a less restrictive. So I'd wake up at 7 o'clock and watch cartoons and then play games. But I didn't really have a lot of games to begin with.
Okay.
So I usually end up playing the same couple of games over and over again the whole day. So it really didn't affect me if I ever had to stop. So.
Okay, fair enough. I will say that I do find the focus on making sure that you're not maybe obsessively putting crazy hours into WoW is admirable on it. I just think that it's crazy the fact that that in China it's law. That's the kind of I would see that more as a parental guidance type of thing than very much like what you described. Josh?
So yeah, that was a bit interesting. My history is a little interesting because I would play. Of course, they wouldn't let me play too late. However, my mom played video games too. She would play a lot of the Legend of Zelda games with me.
Okay.
But she was always bad at actually fighting the bosses. And this was also with Chrono Trigger. That was another game that she and I played a lot.
Nice.
And
good one.
Even on school nights, it could be probably midnight or 2 in the morning. She would wake me up and be like, "I need help fighting this boss."
A true gamer household.
Yeah. So I just get up, beat the boss for her. I'm like, okay, I'm going to bed. So there was that. So that's a bit weird.
That's an interesting twist, for sure. Didn't expect that.
But of course, if I did bad with my studies and my grades, they would disconnect the consoles and hide them so that I couldn't play. I know during one of my later years in high school, my grades were doing pretty bad. So they pretty much took all my games. The only ones they would let me play was DDR. Because they're just well, if you're going to fail, at least you're doing something. So I was like, okay. So I just played a fuck ton of DDR during my senior year of high school.
Okay. Hey, there you go. Yeah, I would like to see... I always fared badly on the DDR machine, but I'd like to see how I fare now, if I'm even worse, now that I'm old.
Yeah, we also had the really shitty playmats.
Really was it the Mad Cats one? That's the one I had.
No, I think I had. At one point, I had one of those foam red octane ones.
Oh, okay.
So those were pretty cool, and I think before that, I had just a shitty GameStop brand one.
Red Octane, that's later on Guitar Hero, right?
I think so.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
I don't even think they exist anymore.
I think they're dead now. Mallory?
I know when I was really little. When I first moved in with my grandparents, they had rules on it, but my grandpa gave me my Game Boy all the time, so I just, me and my sisters would just be quiet, because there was 3 of us and a baby, and it was, super loud all the time. And then in middle school and high school, they really just kind of, because I was always, pretty good kid about, going to sleep when I wanted to. I had a whole game room to myself, so they didn't really much care unless... my grades were slipping, but even then they'd be like, okay, well, just get them up. And I was an A and B student, so pretty much just left me alone with my video games.
Must be nice.
It was real nice.
Alright, so mine's going to be a weird amalgamation of all that, except for Mallory. So Mine was actually, when I was young, it was actually pretty strict. I actually couldn't play video games Monday through Friday. So these Chinese people actually had more liberties. Mom, I know you listen to the podcast, sorry. I know, it was a joke. It was a joke. Yeah, no,
Hi, Patrick's mom.
My mom always hates when I tell these dumb stories. But anyways, no, I wasn't allowed to, but I got the point, you know. Weekends I could play liberally though. I could just whenever I tried to play as much as I could. Later on around, that was probably elementary, and then later on in middle school, it became a little bit more. I had restricted times instead of no times during Monday through Friday. And then, I had my Game Boy and stuff like that, in which case it was on a trust system, which I may or may not have broke quite a bit to play video games when I could, including the little light that plugged into the game, the link, the little worm light.
Those
and trying
are terrible.
Or the magnifier with the lights on it.
So I do have confession time that I will tell this story now that I'm old enough to just get beat slightly. Is when I was younger, I got in trouble, and I think I got busted already back then. So anyways, whatever. If I didn't, now it's confession time. This is my deathbed confession. So when I was younger, not even younger, because I was already in high school, I think. So I was still getting punished because I had bad grades, because I'm that student. My brother was like the A, perfect grades, and I was the other one. And so in high school, which I think is when the original DS came out, I want to say high school.
I think so.
Early high school. Anyway, so I got in trouble, and so I got grounded, so I got my DS taken away. I went out and bought another one that they didn't know about, and I kept that shit secret in my room and played DS as much as I could without trying to get caught. And now that I'm thinking about it, I think I did get caught. And then I got that one taken away too. I think that's what happened. But all I remember is that's how much I wanted to play my DS, is I went out and got another one on the DL, from some shady person, and then had a secret one in my room for a while that I hid under my pillow or some nonsense like that. But yeah, so that's video game time in China as well as our households. There was that. The Outer Worlds is going to be coming out. Oh, right. Sorry. I meant to say. So I think that the reason they do that, though, again, they mentioned, not wanting to see society get really stupid and, trying to keep your grades up, making sure they're the very intelligent and work-efficient country that they are, very scared to have the video games take over life and end up hearing about the stories like that family that I want to say that Korean family.
2004.
There you go. I want to say that there was that Korean family a long time ago that got so into WoW that the baby died because they just stopped taking care of it.
That also sounds like a bunch of American families too.
Good point. But anyways, so in order to prevent the society like that, I get the idea, but it being a law seems a bit extreme. But we are talking about China, I suppose. Yeah. But still, it's one of those things where I'm just like, man, what a scary place.
Right.
It's a little crazy. But yeah, I also read some articles about that where it was implemented to try to combat and prevent video game addiction.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the memes of I bet Blizzard's kicking themselves now.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's just there are some pretty compelling essays on video game addiction, whether or not it is a thing, what types of people are affected by it. Is it just irresponsibility, or are some people can't help it? You know what I mean? Was me going out and getting a secret DS addiction? One could argue maybe. Yeah. Because it was to the point where I was willing to spend extra money, risk getting in trouble, and break the rules to play video game. You know what I mean? It's one of my things where, when I realized that I did have a problem with Overwatch loot boxes, sometimes you don't think you have a problem, and that's the problem.
Yeah. And
I think that it's an interesting argument. Again, one thing that, any type of addiction isn't a blanket statement. But it's an interesting, it has if I dare say, a noble idea and cause. But again, when you turn something to law, it's still, it crosses that threshold of a suggestion to a demand. And it's kind of you know. I don't want to get your political water, oh my. So I know that we do. Our podcast is always really politically charged, which obviously, as you can imagine, politics on the internet, that usually goes a certain way. Any comment on that kind of thing being law? Do you think it's the type of thing where you understand it being a law, or is it being a law a bit extreme in your opinion, or no opinion, or?
I think it's extreme, but I guess it's really hard to say how much of an impact it has unless you live in any place that implements it all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. True. Mm-hmm.
So, like, I have no idea what the gaming industry in China is like, or what the gaming social community is like. But like, anytime I hear about gaming in China, it's usually, such and such was living in a cafe for X amount of time, or like there are cafes where you can live and play games. You should get like a bed or something
Very
like that.
extreme
That's
gaming.
Like but I usually try not to take that as the standard.
Of course.
Like, I understand that they exist.
Mm-hmm.
And if I were to look at that law, I'd be like, well, in this context of people who, I mean, they can live their life, they're grown adults, at least from our eyes.
Right.
But it's the perspective is very different across the world.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. No, definitely. I wasn't trying to, again, whenever we do talk about politics on the cast and we have guests, it is one of those things where I try not to, hot seat anybody, but I don't also want, if you have anything to say, like when I asked Chubbs jokingly about her VPC choices and then that became a segment, an improv segment. Yeah. I always want to give the floor just in case words need to be said. So there's that. So and I just wanted to pad that because I know someone's going to be like, wow, what a dickhead putting him on the spot like that. Mm-hmm. So for anyone who was going to say that, see there, I had a reason.
We fixed it.
Outer Worlds was confirmed to... So two of the titles I'm waiting for the Switch ports for is Outer Worlds and Indivisible. Mm-hmm. Indivisible still has no ETA. Outer Worlds recently announced within the last couple of days that they are aiming for the first quarter of 2020. So sometime hopefully before the end of March, we will see Outer Worlds on Switch. Fantastic game for the little time that I got to mess around with it. It is a really cool game. Very in line and interesting with a lot of the stuff we talk about. Mm-hmm. One of the points that really stick with me, and you'll hear in like pretty much every review, someone kind of parade as this very interesting thing that they do in the game, is that it's so capitalistic, the world in the game, and that committing suicide is considered destruction of property, so it's illegal for that reason, not necessarily because of the person killing himself, but because it's seen as destruction of property. That very much made, to me, a wow, this is the kind of world that I'm afraid we're moving towards as things become more and more, commercialized, and capitalism seems to be the only thing anyone cares about. Reflected by Blizzard lately with the whole, controversy with Hong Kong and everything, and Blitzchung. But it's really interesting. Another thing I hear a lot of reviews talk about, Jim from Jimquisition as well as Pat from Castle Super Beast both hammered home the point that what this game proved is that Bethesda is obsolete now. Because before, people would always turn to a Bethesda game because arguably Bethesda did have some unique IPs in Elder Scrolls and Fallout. Mm-hmm. That style of exploration and free and interesting stories and character essentially masking a pretty jank game overall on a technical level. The gameplay wasn't necessarily the most polished, and Bethesda glitching has become so much of a meme now that it's a sense where it's just a reality of how essentially brokenly put together their games are. Whereas Obsidian, aka New Vegas / Pillars of Eternity, have now made a Bethesda-like, watch this become a genre, a Bethesda-like, where now Bethesda almost seems like their excuses are all out the window now. They did this game in a much smaller window. They made it much more polished. And they did it without microtransactions or post-launch DLC, at least at the moment, none of that's announced. And the game absolutely works and is well put together. So every argument Bethesda has made, our games are massive, it's hard, that's why it's glitch-filled, so on and so forth. A studio with a much smaller budget and a much smaller time frame was able to put a much more competent, put-together game. And it just basically, now what's your argument with Bethesda at this point? It kind of goes in there. Anyone taken some time with Outer Worlds yet?
Yeah, I've been playing it. So I've played it because someone else mentioned like it's a really good game and it's like Fallout, but I was like, I've never played Fallout. And I've never been a really big fan of like post-apocalyptic world type of games.
Okay.
But I kind of wanted to give this one a chance because like it has like space stuff in it.
Hell yeah, it does.
Like, different settings, so I'll give it a chance. And I'm actually I just got to where you're talking about with like the suicide is property.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this game is hilarious. Like, like
the writing is brilliant, man. It's so good.
Like, I guess this isn't a spoiler, but like, when in the particular talking to that person who he worked for, and she was like, I had to go pay for it because I was his closest living relative, right?
Yeah.
And she goes, wait, no, I'm not related to him. And the character's like, what do you mean? You just said you're closest living relative. And they're like, no, I was his closest living relative to where he died. And I was like, wow. the puns are out of control. The wordplay is great, and it makes you want to play the game more. I'm really getting into it, like, overall. So I'm definitely... I was just playing it earlier, a couple hours ago. So
nice. Well, I'm glad to hear it, man. And as your first, so you said no Fallout, so obviously no New Vegas. Did you ever play Pillars of Eternity either?
No, and I think I'm not even familiar with that game, actually. Pillars of Eternity? No, I don't think I've heard that one.
Oh, okay. So yeah, with that being the case, then this is your first exposure to Obsidian. So all I'll say in terms of what you said, if you really like that stuff, that is kind of the appeal of their games. The cleverness of all their games are very bleak. Fallout New Vegas, obviously post-apocalyptic, that's in essence bleak. Pillars of Eternity, no matter every decision and every turn of the story in that medieval D&D like world is that next step to lesser of two evils. You're always going, the story gets darker, but they mask it so brilliantly with awesome written, awesome acted characters. And again, by, jabbing in those bits of humor that almost make it it's bleak, but not entirely ugly and unappealing. Again, there's those things that really draw you in and make you want to explore and play more, and they're always notorious for that, and I absolutely love the fact that Obsidian knocked it out of the park with Outer Worlds. They said that it exceeded their expectations tenfold in both sales and reception, so great success on them. So I'm glad to hear that you really liked it. What about y'all two?
I haven't played it yet.
Okay, Josh, not yet, but interested, of course.
I really want to.
Yeah, absolutely.
I might have to dig out those Game Pass codes I have.
There you go.
And actually use the
What
Xbox
a brilliant game to be on Game Pass.
Yeah, I'm so excited. It's actually the game I'm starting this week.
Awesome.
That I'm going to dump a bunch of time into.
Cool. So then we'll follow up with you. There you go. So then we'll follow up with you on that next week then. But yeah, no, awesome game. You guys should definitely check it out.
Taking a week off from Destiny.
Speaking of Obsidian, since they're on there, I'm going to skip ahead to the docket a little bit. Unfortunately, though, for their other franchise, Pillars of Eternity, their latest release of it, Pillars of Eternity 2 Deadfire expansion, did not meet expectation, unfortunately. And because of that, they're a little... this is where a good company comes into play, where other than Bethesda, who just beats the formula into the ground, and then it's in the ground, and everyone's already tired of it, and they just keep beating it deeper into the ground, Obsidian, all it took was one... and not even bad performing, less than expectation performing game for them to go, perhaps we've oversaturated the franchise, where it's like we had Pillars of Eternity, then 2, Pillars of Eternity 1, then the expansions, then 2, and now this expansion, and all it took was one bump in the road for them to reevaluate. Now they've said they're going to reevaluate. They'd like to keep the franchise alive, but they're going to reevaluate maybe where they failed, and then try to rectify that before pumping another one out.
Yeah.
If they pump another one out. So I'm just like, that's what a good company does. They realize they may be, beating a dead horse in terms of formula, and they go sit down and try to, because both 1 and Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2 were both successfully kickstarted. And they're cases of that thing where the first Kickstarter was a complete gamble, took a while for it to come out, just like Bloodstained, but it was a brilliant product. They supported it well. Then, because of that, they built up that trust where when they kickstarted Pillars of Eternity 2, it met its funding goal, like, right away. And that's the type of, like, loyalty and, like, that quality they want to build up, very much like how I always hold Platinum Games on that pedestal of that company that pretty much never releases a day one patch. Of course, licensed games taken out of account because they've had a few trip-ups with those not being that good. But when it comes to a true Platinum Games game, they've always been that, we're not going to release it. We may delay it a year or two, but when it... like, Bayonetta 3's been in development for forever. But they're basically like, once we drop that, it's going to pretty much be, that's it. You don't worry about patches. Don't worry about DLC. We are done. And I do like it when there's a few companies left with integrity, because obviously all we cover a lot on this podcast are all the ones with no integrity and no shame. So it's nice to see Obsidian, again, a bit of a minor kerfuffle, taking that into account and wanting to proceed with better taste. So that's good. And it wasn't even a big deal. So, but what's up?
Obsidian's also owned by Microsoft now, so I think they have less of a choice in,
you're right. It's always interesting when smaller studios like that get bought up by a bigger one, because you're always worried it might go the EA route, where they got, like, I always like bringing up visceral games. Dead Space was a dope franchise, got bought up by EA, became trash. They blamed it on Visceral, threw them under the bus, killed them off. It looks like they're going to probably do the same with BioWare, and then now it looks like they could possibly do that with Respawn eventually. It's the big fear, And then you have Microsoft, on the other hand, who, for the most part, with the indie studios they've picked up, have primarily tried to take the Disney route of, like, we're trying to give them a budget without controlling them too much, which I can kind of respect Microsoft big time for that, because hopefully that's what they do with Obsidian, because he's right. That's where we're at right now in terms of that. Which is also why, other than just being Epic Games exclusive for you PC players who keep cracking the too bad it doesn't come out till next year joke, because Steam is not till next year. For those of you who are so opposed to Epic Games, which I don't blame you, Epic Games launcher and store is still trash. It is available on Windows 10. So if you do want to play it on PC and don't want to support Epic but also don't want to wait for Steam, there's your other option because of that ownership deal with Microsoft that is available on Windows 10 as well. So you can pick it up in that store. Good stuff, though. Outer Worlds. What's up?
The Xbox PC Pass is only like $1.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Isn't it, if you have the Game Pass, you get PC Pass for free? It's like
what he's saying is the trial right now is $1, which is the same for Xbox.
Oh.
So, anyways, but yeah, exactly. It's the same on both. And that's actually what I like, is Microsoft's so smart. They know that at the moment they're the weakest of the three consoles in terms of competition and sales. So they're doing all these smart things to try to stay afloat. And I think that the Game Pass is a brilliant thing. You're exposing games like Outer Worlds and Outer Wilds, it's funny enough that they're both on there, to audiences that may not have heard of or tried them otherwise. So you give good exposure to those studios, whereas you're also making an incentive to play on that platform, So it's really cool. Like, I think Microsoft always knocks it out of the park when it comes to making decisions like that. And speaking of Game Pass, that's actually the next topic on the thing. Sony has addressed, because a lot of people have kind of said how brilliant Game Pass is. It's kind of been, over the last year especially, as Microsoft's been loading that up, will Sony ever answer to it? And Sony had a bit of a statement. Sony claimed that they don't see the need to, which, to be fair enough, they're kind of killing it, so there really is no need to for them to start that. But what they have addressed is in terms of first-party titles. So they, whereas Microsoft front loads it with Forza, Gears, and a lot of their things, it's more of a platform to get their titles out there. Sony said because of the kind of, like, they don't really see the need to, since they're kind of successful, there's no point in giving away their first-party titles for free. They have said that they wouldn't be entirely opposed to an indie version of Game Pass, whereas Microsoft does both. Maybe highlight the indie stuff like what Microsoft does with a sort of Game Pass-esque thing. But Sony has addressed, though, that they pretty much have zero intention, however, of doing that with their own, God of War and Spider-Man and all that stuff is definitely not going to be on some sort of, like, free service anytime soon. So they made that very clear. Speaking of, this wasn't on the docket, but speaking of PlayStation and Xbox, I hope PlayStation copies what Xbox is doing, because I find this very interesting what they're doing. So we talked about last time they were going to do a sort of trade-in or credit program so you can get on that next gen real quick without having to either pay it all out of pocket or keep your last gen, which hints that the Project Scarlet, or whatever they officially call it in the end, is going to be entirely backwards compatible for Xbox. The other thing they mentioned, which I absolutely think is brilliant and PlayStation needs to do, especially because they don't change the controllers that much anyways, is that your Xbox One controllers, good to go on the next console already, confirmed. So if you already have all your controllers, now you don't have to worry about buying your next set of, like, if you like to play with a lot of friends on stuff, You don't have to worry about getting another 3 Xbox Project Scarlet controllers. Now you can just use your Xbox One controllers, as well as the new ones if they have any ergonomic changes or features that you may want to. But they did confirm all your stuff's coming forward with that. And it also does seem like the console is going to be entirely backwards compatible, which would make Xbox the only platform at the moment that would go all the way back to the OG one still.
Wow.
So, very interesting in that light. And I would love, because I am more of a PlayStation person, to see them take that same route. But PlayStation always seems to have technical hiccups in terms of, like, reaching to backwards compatibility, where they're always having to compromise one major thing or another. And it always seems like, I don't know what's going on with the CERT team or the people who do QA or anything like that, where, you know, you had the original PS3 could do PS1 games, but not PS2 games. And then all of a sudden that functionality in the later PlayStations, because they wanted to slim it down, they had to take that away.
Yeah.
And there's always a compromise, it seems, of sorts. So it's always been weird with PlayStation. Not to mention, when PS3 was first out, the technical foibles there were when it came to some of the ports to that console. So PlayStation always seeming to have to play catch-up on a technical level, but always killing it in the end, of course.
I remember most of PS3's lifespan, like a lot of games had a very rough launch.
Yeah. Like Skyrim straight up was missing music and sound effects at the launch. So it was, and buggiest of the 3. Bad frame rates and everything. So it's one of those things. Oh my, when it comes to gaming, where do you stand on the 3-party system? Are you a Nintendo guy primarily? You can obviously be multi-platform. We all technically are. But are you more of a Xbox, PlayStation, or Nintendo kind of guy?
Nintendo and PC.
There you go.
Definitely, first and foremost. I do have a PS4, but I only use it for like exclusive games. Like the last one I played was like Spider-Man.
Cool, fair enough. Dope game.
And I also just kind of use it for streaming services sometimes.
Okay, cool. So a bit of a set top
I don't
box.
actively use it.
Right.
And I've never had an Xbox.
Okay, so there you go. But Mallory scoffs. Don't worry, we got a lot of not Xbox people on here. So
I didn't scoff.
Okay, you didn't scoff. She just made a face. But it's fine. Shub's already played Xbox, so you already got your representation there.
I already got mine right now.
But at the moment, I would say primarily gaming on Switch and PC for me. My PlayStation 4 has been collecting a bit of dust, and my Xbox One is a dust pile. So that's where it is on that spectrum. That's also the issue with being multi-platform, is you either end up having your library just sectioned so crazily, or you have, in my case, where I own it on everything, which is a financial issue, and then you also have the thing where you end up not touching certain ones for a while. So yeah, it's one of those things where I'm on there. And then of course Josh, for the most part, PlayStation.
Usually, lately, any games I've been playing have mostly been on Switch.
Yeah.
I'm still slowly going through Fire Emblem. Though it's in a box somewhere, but I need to get Nier and
Nier.
finish the third gameplay or playthrough for that. And then my Xbox, I've been using it, but just to watch stuff. I've been using it to watch Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds all day. So that's all I use my Xbox for, really. YouTube.
Xbox
Hulu.
likes that. You know what? That counts as representation still, so Xbox likes that. They see you online still.
Yeah.
So they're like, hey, someone's using Xbox for something. Didn't say what. Not for games,
Doesn't matter
probably,
what it is.
but we're using it. What are you on my... I'm assuming you've been rocking the Switch. Any interesting games you've been playing on there lately?
Astral Chain was the last one.
Yo! Oh, my man. Astral Chain.
It's so good. The anime theme, like the intro, caught me off guard, but it was so amazing.
It's so good. What a long game too. The content in that game, there's a lot of it. Like many Platinum games, like that game goes on for a while. You'll put it in.
I haven't finished it yet, but I'm definitely looking forward to finishing it.
Very cool. Did you have you played many of Platinum games in the past? Bayo, Metal Gear Rising, anything like Star Fox Zero, anything like that?
I did play Metal Gear Rising when that was. I got barely through it, but it was alright. It wasn't a bad game. I forgot why I stopped playing it. I think it Navy stuff at the time.
Sounds about right.
But yeah, I'll probably go back to it at some point. I think I have it on PC now or something, or wherever I have it.
It does run really
good. And then Star Fox Zero I didn't play, but I love Star Fox games.
Yeah. Star Fox Zero is a weird anomaly where the game itself could have been great because Platinum plus Nintendo and Star Fox should have been amazing, but it was one of the games that suffered because you were forced too hard to use that damn gamepad, and it had some of the most awkward controls. I would love for them to try Star Fox Zero again with Platinum, but remove any gimmicky type thing. Don't even use the
it was on
thing.
Wii U, right?
Yeah, it was on Wii U.
Yeah.
Wii U is such a weird console. I love it and hate it because it was such an objectively bad console, but it had some titles I really enjoyed, like Wonderful 101 and Bayo 2 and stuff that should have been forward ported to Switch, as I'm sure it eventually will. They've expressed a lot of stuff on that, where now that Switch has hit its stride, they really want to do that. But yeah, Astral Chain, good stuff. Definitely different from some of their titles too. It's nice to see a game take a tried and true formula and try some different stuff with it, like controlling your character as well as the beast and everything like that. Kind of takes a bit of getting used to it first. But I always tell people, like many Platinum games, get through the first couple of files, and if you think you might not like it, you'll eventually fall in love with it. It's really good. To me, one of the instant classic fall in love Platinum, Nier. From the music to the visuals to the gameplay, Nier on PS4 is one of their best works to date, though. But Astral Chain, definitely nothing to scoff at, because that is a fantastic game also. So yeah, sponsored by Platinum Games. There's that. No. Pokemon Sword and Shield getting a bit of flack for missing a lot of Pokemon. They already did say that there weren't going to be all of them in there, but the leaks recently showed quite a bit of how many are not going to be there, and it's a lot, especially if you're a big mark for the original Pokemon. There's a lot of them missing, and a lot of people are a bit upset about that. Some in a more joking manner, some in a more negative manner. But not so much. Oh-My, big fan of the Pokemon series. Not so much in a while.
Yeah, not lately. I think I took Crystal or something, or Diamond, I don't remember.
So it's been a while.
I was like, it was whatever games came out in 2013. Those were the ones I played.
How about Little Oh-My? Did Little Oh-My like Pokemon a lot? Oh-My.
Oh yeah, I got red, blue, and yellow for Christmas one year.
Oh man,
same year, and then like people stole my games at school.
Oh god, what a bunch of asshats. Those bastards.
Sad
Sad Oh-My. Oh no, Mr. Josh, how are you feeling? I know we've all kind of expressed in the last year as they announced kind of sad detail after sad detail, we've kind of more and more shrugged the hype from it away.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this in terms of the general idea of Pokemon missing / the announcement of a lot of, especially the classic ones, missing?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the lists, so I don't know what it is, but it does. When I first heard that it wasn't going to have the national decks, it was definitely a bit upsetting. I think at some point I knew this was kind of gonna happen at some
eventually
point. Yeah, because like with each game, like they have to make like over 100, almost 200 new
models.
Pokemon. Yeah, and then or they'll just add on to existing ones. Like there's another Charizard. There's the
Charizard's coming back. Charizard's coming back
Yeah.
again. For anyone who doesn't know, there's been some pretty good comics of Bulbasaur and Squirtle straight up ignoring Charmander now because he always gets to be in every game. Yeah. And any fans of Bulbasaur family or Squirtle family will be very disappointed to know that they aren't going to be in it at all. So there's that. If you're Charizard Mark, though, guess what? You get another Charizard as a new Charizard in the game. So
yeah, like it was kind of neat when they did it with Sun and Moon, where they would have like the Alola, Vulpix, and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but
that's kind of cool.
Now it just seems like, okay, so you're just kind of recycling that idea now, and I really haven't been the most excited for Sword and Shield.
And this doesn't help?
It really doesn't. I'm sure I'll get it eventually.
Same, I don't really have any intention to get it at launch right now with all these games that are coming out.
Yeah, and then, I don't know, some of the Pokemon seem a little uninspired. Or maybe a bit too inspired, because you got
depending how you
Sif.
look at it.
You literally have Sif from Dark Souls.
Yeah, you do.
So it's like...
Which is the one I actually am pretty hyped for, are those two. I like the way they look.
Yeah.
That's why I got the Switch Lite that has them on it.
Yeah.
for a game that I'm not going to get. That's how hyped I got for it. I got the Switch Lite with them on it, but not them. But yeah.
It's, I don't know, Pokemon's weird. It's like the older... I don't want to say it's age. I really do think that there's just something about the games that aren't really as exciting anymore.
I agree.
Like, Sun and Moon was pretty interesting.
Sun and Moon was probably the most hyped I got in a long time about Pokemon.
Because I liked
Crystal.
how they changed it up. Like, you weren't going to a random gym, you know, just to beat all the people. They're like, no, we're just going to have you do, like, little tasks.
Dare I say that is probably it, I think. I think it's just we're getting tired of this, like... Yeah. Let's face it, you know, this franchise has been a part of our lives for a long time, and it'll always hold that spot in our heart. But I think we are finally getting that burnout where we're just like, we don't even care to hear about a new game coming out anymore, because it's not that the games are objectively bad, it's just that there's that joke about how they always add new stuff, whether it be interesting or not, and then it disappears the next game. So that lack of continuity, and then just the same recycled idea, go around the country, try to collect as many as you can, beat the gym leaders, fight the bad guy team. That set of tropes has become so ridiculously monotonous. I think that it really is just, 30 years of burnout that we're just kind of finally like... just a really long sigh. Or
you could just be that, like, we're all older and we're just tired of it. Like, the original Pokemon series was aimed at us when we were early, teens or whatever, like 10 years old average.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Like, we're all like 30-ish.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe going through the motions of it for 30 years is what it is. It's just been doing it for so long.
Yeah, and Pokemon was pretty revolutionary at the time.
It certainly was. Everyone wanted that to be reality.
Yeah, like, I think even the Dragon Quest series even tried to get on that bandwagon.
A little bit.
Because they had their own, like, spin-off game where instead of, like, fighting the monsters, you would
try to catch them.
Yeah, you would capture, like, you could capture the slime and train it and stuff like that.
Dragon Quest likes doing that, because Dragon Quest Builders got on the Minecraft hype, which, by the way, they did it pretty decent, but it's one of those things where Dragon Quest seems to like to get in on the trends when they
do. They have a Muso game?
They do have a Muso game.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So
if you like Dragon Quest, damn, there's a lot of versions of Dragon Quest for you to check out.
This is true.
So I'm still hyped for Pokemon. Just throwing that out
there.
Hey,
no, don't feel ashamed that all
not.
three of us are looking at you ugly. I'm
I'm not. I'm excited because I'm just not over.
You're not tired of it yet, and that's good.
I'm not.
I wish it's like what Jim Sterling says.
I think it's because I get to experience it with my nephew in a whole new way.
That's true. You have the little spark next to you.
I do.
Where I have the burnt out old flame.
It definitely makes it more interesting. Like, I remember playing Pokemon Let's Go, and I mean, I picked it up today, and I was like, I don't really feel like playing. But then when I'm with Tyler, or when I'm with my nephew, he will play. He'll play. 2 players with me, and we'll both be like playing it together, and he's so excited over it, and I'm excited over it, because I mean, we will literally sit in restaurants and not give a crap about what anybody else is doing, and we're like, let's do this. So I think for me, I'm not burnt out on it yet, because I just take every new Pokemon game like it's a different game. Like, even if the mechanics are recycled, or the new
bring back Poffins.
Bring back Poffins and underground hideouts.
Yes,
that's the best.
Yeah,
but so I'm still excited.
Good.
Well,
Mallory will be the ones. Are you getting it at lunch?
I am.
Okay, so you'll be our insert, because we definitely won't be. So no, I didn't mean that in such a dickish way.
Maybe it's because
what I mean is
I haven't hit 30 yet.
It's going to be a big. Oh, it might be. I think it's 30. No, but.
30 is the year.
It's the year when you get tired of Pokemon.
Yeah.
But
we're gonna become the PokéBoomers.
The PokéBoomers. Okay, PokéBoomer.
Okay, PokéBoomer. All right. You don't like Sword and Shield.
Yeah, it's like
we trademark that.
One thing they are doing that is kind of cool that came out, although it is making some of the OG salty, is the fact that they're streamlining EV and IVs. There's going to be a whole system in there. Nature's. There's going to be a whole system in getting that perfect equip Pokemon by going through a more streamlined process instead of
fine.
But of course you
says
have
the guy who spent like 500 hours playing
and
Diamond and Pearl on the bike, going up and down, hatching eggs, going into the stupid faux battles.
So there's exactly. So there's 2 for people that have been playing Pokemon for a long time, like we have. there's two schools of thoughts of reactions to it. There's the people who are like, well, thank goodness for me now / future generations. Yeah. But then, of course, you do have the people who are like, I've been grinding this for the last 30 years, and you're changing it to be so easy now.
You know,
I
just
used
take
to
the
have to get berries and all sorts of nonsense. Like, you know, yes, it used to be convoluted, but they're trying to, what they hope to accomplish by this is a more exciting competitive scene where people don't feel gatekeeped out by this kind of crap. So I think that's a good thing. So we'll see. Some people are going to put some killer teams together now, and it'll be unless you're a fan of Bulbasaur. But
or Squirtle.
Or Squirtle.
Like, Squirtle's my favorite, and he's not even in the game.
Yeah, it's sad. I like the Avenge the Fallen posters that they have of Venusaur and Blastoise.
Those are such a great meme, because I'll be on Discord, like my Yu-Gi-Oh! Discords, and they'll do that for cards on the ban list.
There you go, Avenge the Fallen.
Like Avenge the Fallen. It's just like, it's hilarious.
Good stuff. Yeah, but that's Pokemon. One bit of bad and one bit of good. As the news of the franchise always seems to be lately. Mm-hmm. Fallout Shelter's coming to board game form. Okay, who cares? And then we also have... Well, no, I didn't hate Fallout Shelter. It's just like, it's not much of a story. It's just like they're making a board... Everything's becoming a board game now. Dark Souls is a board game. Even Deadly Premonition was a board game.
They're making a Scott Pilgrim board game.
They're making a Scott Pilgrim board game.
Like, the Oregon Trail has a board game.
Oh, what?
Yeah, I bought it for my brother-in-law for Christmas like 2 or 3 years ago.
See,
we still play that game.
Let's roll some dice and die from dysentery.
See,
that is my favorite card.
Forget Battle Royale. Board game meta is where it's at now in the industry.
And what's really funny is one side has your team or your wagon team. The other side has gravestones where you write the people who died.
Okay.
All right. Well, there's
so I guess like everybody has their own like wagon.
No, you just like you make a road. You're in one wagon and you have to make a road.
All in the same wagon.
Yeah, and then like it just has tiles, and then you get a river. And you have to cross the river, and then you like get a calamity card, and you have to play on that calamity card, like medicine, water.
All right, that's all really interesting.
Sorry,
but
I'll send you pictures.
Okay, cool.
It's time to talk about. This is gonna segue into the main topic, but before we do, we have the semi-main topic, which is going to be Overwatch 2. A bit more news on that. So, as confusing as it already is in the state of why is their sequel so close to the other one? Mm-hmm. It's gotten even more confusing because Kaplan has since stated the statement that Overwatch 1 will also be getting the stuff that Overwatch 2 gets.
What?
Uh-huh.
So then why is there an Overwatch 2?
What is it?
If you're going to implement the same mechanics and shit into Overwatch 1, why does this game need to exist?
He says, quote, nothing and no one left behind.
Okay.
So
I'm so confused.
I'm more confused now than I was in the beginning. I was just like, I don't know what's happening. I just, because first part he talks about it, he goes, yeah, people are worried about losing their progress, and I'm just like, what progress? And then he goes, and their skins. I'm like, okay, yeah, I was worried about that. He's like, oh, don't worry, those can go forward to Overwatch 2. And I was like, huh? Okay, so they're going to import this game because all of the content in Overwatch 2 is going to be in Overwatch 1. And I was just like, what the fuck does that even mean? So I can
play Overwatch 2 without buying it?
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, because he goes, guys, don't worry, no one in Overwatch 1 is getting fucked because all the maps and modes in Overwatch 2 are coming to Overwatch 1 also. So I'm just like, so you mean Overwatch 1? What the fuck is Overwatch 2 then? I don't understand. It was such a confusing interview. I said, or statement. It wasn't an interview, it was a statement. Where I was just like, this didn't explain anything, and it actively unexplained. It undid BlizzCon, is what it did.
It's made it even more confusing.
Yeah. Ohm-I, did you play much Overwatch when the Overwatch hype was hot?
No, I never played Overwatch. I didn't play Paladin. I didn't play any of those.
The FPS MOBAs.
FPS MOBAs. The game I got into around that time was Atlas Reactor from Tryon Worlds, and then I was like super into that.
Nice.
Everyone else was playing Overwatch.
There you go. Okay. Marching
I bought myself, and now the game is dead. So
hey, I don't feel so bad. Oh my! I've never played Overwatch either, so
I feel like
I don't understand this game at all.
I feel like with a lot of the way Ohm-I's narratives have ended, it's gonna be he's gonna have one of the like. It's almost like a dark comedy in terms of like. he's always, like, a lot of his anecdotes has ended up, and then this happened, and it's so sad, and then everyone's gonna be like, oh. But, yeah, no, but... But yeah, so his game died, unfortunately, and whereas I wish Blizzard as a company would just die, Overwatch 2 is apparently a thing, but not really. So we'll see. I'm sure more people they're going to have to probably drop one of those updates where they explain what the hell that even means, because that is even more confusing.
Hey, Ohm-I, while all of them are playing Overwatch, we'll go play Outer Worlds.
There you go.
We got
I'm not playing Overwatch, but there's that.
Okay.
There's that. But yeah, so it's one of those things where it just made things more unclear, and it's always weird when they make statements like that. Like, it's just, what does that even mean? So, we'll see. And then finally, on our main topic, which if you want to get in on the conversation, you can hit us up at disconnectedcastmail@gmail.com. Once again, that's disconnectedcastmail@gmail.com, and you can talk to us about what Jeff Kaplan of Overwatch has said recently. So, we talked last week about J. Allen Brack's non-apology, how he didn't even address the Hong Kong controversy, he didn't even say what they were apologizing for, and the fact that Blizzard can apologize as much as they want to, but the fact that they haven't undone the punishment entirely is a bit of a slap in the face, because that would be like saying, I'm sorry for hitting you, but you're still punching the person. Mm-hmm. You're in the act of punching the person as you apologize. So, of course, when it comes to the company agenda, it kind of worked. Unfortunately, a lot of people, a lot of cosplayers and other, influencers and celebrity presences I've seen on social media have kind of ate up this bullshit apology and kind of said, see guys, they said sorry, it's okay to play Overwatch again. I'm still not fully convinced, as anyone shouldn't be, because again, the punishment is still actively going on, so Blizzard clearly still stands behind it. So you can make puppy dog eyes and cry all you want and say sorry, but until you undo it, not really
They didn't actually apologize for
and the fact that they didn't address what they were apologizing for, because like Josh made the point of, what if you didn't know what's going on?
Yeah, like they just said, well, we done a bad thing.
Yeah.
Okay, but
it's
what
been
was the
rough
bad
lately.
thing?
A heated esports moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
in which nobody was really heated.
Yep. So that's what we talked about last time. This time, Kaplan has openly stated he disagrees with the decision on Blitzchung, and even he says that it should be undone. Now, the way Blizzard works, Activision Blizzard in general, but the way the Blizzard branch works is a lot of these teams are pretty independent of each other. Jeff Kaplan in Overwatch, the Diablo team, Hearthstone team, they're all are pretty sectioned, although they do work in the same Blizzard building. Now, what I'm still curious is if Kaplan's being wholly genuine, or if he's trying to kind of throw Blizzard a bone by kind of being like, hey, I'm one of the bigwigs here, and even I'm saying it's a baddie, and that we did a bad thing. He mentions, of course, his belief in freedom of speech being violated through this act wholly, which people still go to me and be like, what's the big deal? I'm like, oh, human rights, but not that big of a deal, I suppose. And it's one of those things where, I don't know, it's curious. He said he made some compelling arguments, but it's one of those things where, being one of the big bosses, I'm like, it's hard to believe you, though, because you get a big paycheck. You're the leader of the Overwatch team. It's hard for you to... I want to believe you, though.
But he was a Hearthstone player, though, right? Blitzchung?
Blitzchung was.
Yeah,
so he's speaking about another team, which
gives
a little bit of ground of belief that he's criticizing the Hearthstone
I don't
team.
know how their fucking chain of command works and shit like that.
Yeah.
So
he's technically independent of them in a sense.
Yeah, so I don't know if Jeff Kaplan has the ability to go in there and say, nah. So.
He doesn't, so he was kind of just expressing. That's why I think he felt it was safe to express his open opinion. But it's very interesting to hear someone that works at the same company say in a different department. For those who work a 9-to-5 grind, most of that's relatable. Your cashier's talking to your back end or something like that, kind of like that.
Well, because he's less likely to get backlash from it, probably.
Yeah, and because of that, he also did openly state that his statement is not the opinion of anyone else on the Overwatch team, and that he is speaking independently and candidly, which is another reason I want to believe his opinion of the fact that I don't really hate Kaplan.
Because there are people in Blizzard who
don't
agree with it.
There's tons of people.
There
There were the people who covered up or took down all those hypocritical signs in
Yeah.
the workplace that straight up say, we believe in expressing yourself.
Yeah,
we
they're
believe
like, well, it's
in a
bullshit,
free
so.
speech workplace. Let's censor this guy, you know.
We're the ones who put up in support of Hong Kong posters on their
Yeah.
workstations.
and stuff like that.
Change
So,
the background.
I do want to believe Kaplan. It's just always one of those things where whenever you're a boss man, everyone does take what you say with a grain of salt naturally, just because it's always like, You got to get that magnifying glass out and be like, really? Really?
Well, he's
But
part of the man right now, so...
theoretically he is, and I suppose that's the case. He did mention, one example that he did mention is apparently there was a lot of controversy in the way they handled the first few seasons of Overwatch competitively, and he said that one of the main things that Blizzard could have done better as a company, and he always did use the terms we, of course, because he doesn't section himself off from it. He does, no, they are still part of Blizzard. He spoke very well, and that's another thing that made it very convincing, and I'm just like, I hope I can believe you, and I'm not getting swindled. He mentioned that they took about 1 to 5 days to deliberate each major decision, and even though he used the same words as Alan Brack, where he said, we move too fast, which I still think is a funny terminology, because it's one of those things where it's just like, so if you did the same decision but took longer to decide it, it would have made it better.
Yeah.
That's what I hear when I hear someone say we did the decision too fast. So I think it's funny how they're always harping on that particular fact that the decision was made too fast. But Kaplan also does pat it out with saying that I feel the decision in general was just wrong. He said that not just should they have taken a seat and thought about it for a few days before making the decision to ban him and take away his money, but they said that it probably just could have been wholly avoided and realized maybe not, or what would the backlash be, the public backlash be weeks before BlizzCon. Lots of things could have been accounted for if they had taken just a few days to think about it, so I don't know. But, yeah, I don't know. Blizzard, again, they're in a thing where, unfortunately, their whole masquerade paid off in the majority sense, where it looks like everyone's back on the board with feeling comfortable playing Overwatch games, Blizzard games again, like Overwatch or Diablo, and it just seems that didn't really, unfortunately, the movements didn't really work as well as I was hoping they would against it, because they seem to financially be back on their feet. Kind of a douchey thing I forgot to mention when we were talking about Overwatch, Kaplan did admit, as well as a couple of insiders, that the reason not much stuff has been happening in Overwatch 1 was for all these plans of Overwatch 2.
Yeah.
So they did admit to stonewalling themselves to work on the sequel already, thus almost prematurely cutting content, but then mentioning the thing about... Then it got confusing after that, so it's just like, I still don't know what that means, but yeah, oh my... In terms of, because it's always been like a hot plate thing with us, where we go... To make a change, we need everybody on board with the train, but then not everyone wants to get on board with the train. Do you believe if a company makes a bad decision, that not supporting their product really does make a difference, or that we should all just put our foot in our mouths, deal with it, and just support a product anyways because change can't come? Do you have any sense on that?
I have a... okay.
I know. That's a very loaded question.
That's a long discussion we don't have time for. In the case of Blizzard, because I don't really follow like the esports world too much, but I'm aware of like everything that's been happening.
Yeah.
Blizzard, it's nice to hear that somebody admitted that they made a mistake. But I don't... gamers can be super fickle. And so I think that in this community, or in a gaming community, you can make a lot of difference. And I'm just talking about like negative Steam reviews, that isn't whatever.
Right.
You can make a lot of difference if you stop supporting a company financially, and if enough people do it, especially with bigger games. But the problem is, the bigger the game is, the more you find a divide of people who care and people who don't.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, they're going to lose some money, but they'll still be afloat for their expenses.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Nice.
In other communities, for example, and this is a big one. A lot of companies recently have been getting in trouble in like the developer and information security world for taking contracts with like ICE, right? In those situations where people try to stop supporting them, or they start like harassing employees who work for those companies because they feel like you're putting kids in cages because you work for this company, even though like the employee has nothing to do with the business decisions.
Absolutely.
That's a little more. It's a little different. It really just depends on the people who make up the community as far as how much something is going to be effective.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, and it's nice to hear that you do feel that way, because that's kind of pretty aligned with us, and it's where we do express our frustration sometimes. You know, earlier in the year we had Borderlands 3 and a ton of controversy that followed the company itself, but then a lot of people just told us, well, you know, yeah, the company did a bunch of shady shit and abuses their employees as a fact, but, you know, Borderlands 3 hype, and oh well, it's not like enough of us are going to stop buying it to do it. And it's like, I hate that mentality, because I'm just like, well, see, but if we really did all agree to not support it, and if Borderlands 3 made like $10, I mean, let's just be realistic, like a few $100 on launch day, it would still, I think, have sent a strong message to be like, maybe you should clean up your practices, because now look how many people stood united. Mm-hmm. But so many people think that their voice doesn't matter, and it just has a trickle-down effect, unfortunately, where then you have thousands, millions of people who think their voice doesn't matter, and then when you all just give up like that so easily, it's just a shame to see. You know, obviously change could happen, you know, like you were saying, you know, obviously stuff like that can be a thing, but you brought up a very good point with your with the second thing you said, where it is a bit unfortunate sometimes, where and Josh had made this point on the podcast before, where does suck for the developers and all the staff caught in between, mm-hmm. right? Because if my wish for Activision Blizzard to die as a company did happen, we are talking about a mass, thousands of people who did have nothing to do with these bad decisions mm-hmm. would be laid off and be jobless because of that wish. So there's the other side of the coin, where it's just like, would the dirty CEOs getting punished subsequently cause an issue with anyone else who's just working that grind? You know what I mean? And it's why it's not just a black and white topic, and why you could go back and forth, you know, forever. But I do think that more people should have confidence in the ability that a group can have to make change. Gamers can be more than just gamers in the light of expressing a massive dislike of a decision, say in Blizzard's case, where they're essentially choosing money over freedoms. Mm-hmm. And I think that if more people had, because it was just absurd. Like, I know not everyone has to agree with everybody, but I was just so disappointed with no one wanting to even have a, you know, even among my friends who didn't want to have a nice, you know, coffee conversation about how supporting Blizzard stuff is kind of bad right now, and how maybe even if you don't block it forever, to prove a point at the moment, it would be nice to see a Blizzard blackout of just look at their servers and see fuck all playing it. I think that would have drove a very big point home, you know, and unfortunately so many people were like, who cares, check out my play of the game. The fact that it gets boiled down to, there's no way anything involved with video games could be an important topic or thing, you know. Some people, when I express the podcast, people go, what do you have a podcast about? And I explain video game politics. So many people get so confused. What could you possibly be talking about on that podcast then? They don't understand all the fucking... Every business has its, you know, skeletons in the closet. And the video game industry is notorious for having tons of them. And, you know, I just think people need to have more confidence in their voice and realize the fact that change could happen if everyone would believe in it, instead of just giving up from the starting line. You know? So, there's that.
It's also really optimistic, because if people could do that, we have a lot less other issues.
Exactly. No, you're right. You're right. Yeah. Absolutely.
But like in the gaming community in particular, like another like hot topic over the last couple of years has always been like pre-orders for games, right?
Yeah.
And all these prizes that come out, and there's a very vocal group of people who don't support pre-orders, but you know they realize that it's like companies are still going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And I think there are some things that have defeated gamers in the past that are just kind of like, oh, companies are going to company.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Very, very, very valid point. A thing that comes to mind, actually, highlighting that is when people go, who plays Fallout 76 anymore, right? Probably not that many people, but the few people that do, those are what the gaming industry likes to refer to as, in the back end of things, called whales, where in your free-to-play game, or your game like Fallout 76, which is a trash fire, it doesn't matter if the masses care or even like your game. The fact that you have a few hundred people that are spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month to this game they're addicted to, whether it be Fortnite or Fallout 76, like a 12-month subscription for $100,
yeah,
that's all they care about, is what can they squeeze out of that bleeding corpse at the very, very end of it. And you're absolutely right. It's a shame. It's those type of dark truths that make people get defeated, and it is a shame. I hate to end the podcast on such a bleak note, but you're right. It is, to be fair to the people that either just, put me on block on social media because of stuff I say, or don't want to have that argument, or even those who do oppose against me and say, I don't see what the big deal is. You're right. Perhaps, that other side, there is kind of harsh truths as to why people have become so defeated over years and years of not being able to make a change. So, it's a shame.
But the other truth is that, as gamers, we've defeated, multiple castles, multiple monsters, and everything like that eventually we will, I feel like gamers will take back their confidence again. Positivity all the way on this one, because if they really looked at how strong we are, they would see just how strong we could be too. So
yeah, there's been a few instances where companies got a little scared. Yeah. The fact that the reactions that came out, the fact that Blizzard even apologized, even half-assedly, showed that they took it a little serious, even if they kind of showed their ass while they were apologizing. Yeah. But yeah. But what I won't apologize for is the fact that you can catch us next week and all episodes from then on. Before we do go, anything to plug on my coming up, or pretty quiet for now?
It's been pretty quiet. I think I have, I might have a show next month on my birthday, actually. Oh. I hope so. That'd be nice. At Cafe Red for the Friday night kit down in Seattle.
There you go. And, Shubs and Bill are usually there, right?
Yeah, they actually run it.
Nice.
So kind of just think that. And hopefully I will be at MacFest. I will be at MacFest. I don't know if I'm doing anything there, but I'll definitely be at MacFest and all the other conventions that people are going to.
There you
at the beginning of the year.
And where can people find and support your stuff in terms of band camps, or finding any merch or music to get?
My website is mcohmi.com, and then everything links from there.
There you go.
So it's pretty convenient.
There you go. Smart man. Smart and efficient.
Stuff. Yeah. I can say one thing, and you can find everything else.
There you go. All right, guys. So make sure to support Ohm-I. We'll get any of his future stuff, because the man doesn't always stay quiet. And when he drops some stuff, it is fire. So once he gets that out there, we'll get it to you guys, because once we get people on this cast, we do consider them family, you know. Shubs and Bill may have been on here only once so far, but we do hope to have them in the future, as we do Ohm-I. Hopefully return in a future episode. And when we do, we'll always be, plugging and dropping their stuff during ad spots and whatnot, because, everyone on here's family, so we got that. And you can catch all episodes at disconnectedcast.com at every Monday, which is totally when we're recording this, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time every Monday. And until the next episode, we'll catch you guys then. See ya. Oh, did I say 10? I meant 11. Sorry.
You kept saying 10.
You're early.
Time change.
Time change.